The news hit Meghan Markle like a slap across the face. Her favorite photographer, the man she'd trusted with some of her most intimate and carefully crafted images, had just been hired by Victoria and David Beckham. And according to insiders close to the situation, Meghan absolutely lost it. Sources claim she erupted in a fury that left those around her stunned, her anger spilling over in a way that revealed just how deeply she felt betrayed. This wasn't just about a photographer switching clients. This was personal. This was war. Misan Harriman had been more than just a creative collaborator for Meghan. He was part of her inner circle, a trusted ally who understood her vision and captured her in ways that felt authentic and powerful. He'd photographed her pregnancy announcement, shot intimate family moments, and become synonymous with the carefully curated image Meghan was building post-royal life. To her, he wasn't just a photographer, he was hers. And now the Beckhams had swooped in and snatched him away. Word on the street suggests Meghan felt blindsided. She'd considered Harriman loyal, someone who wouldn't cross certain lines or work with people she viewed as rivals. But when the Beckhams came calling with their Hollywood clout and fashion empire connections, Harriman said yes, and that, insiders whisper, was the ultimate betrayal in Meghan's eyes. She'd built him up, given him access to her world, and this was how he repaid her, by jumping ship to the very couple she'd been quietly competing with for years. The drama didn't stay behind closed doors for long. Sources close to Meghan claim she immediately reached out to mutual contacts, venting her frustration and making it clear she felt disrespected. Some insiders even suggest she questioned Harriman's loyalty directly, demanding to know why he'd chosen to work with the Beckhams without giving her a heads up. The photographer, for his part, has remained diplomatically silent, but the tension is palpable, and those in the know say this rift isn't going to heal anytime soon. But here's where it gets even messier. This isn't just about a photographer. It's about power, control, and the simmering rivalry between Meghan Markle and Victoria Beckham that's been bubbling under the surface for years. The Beckhams hiring Harriman wasn't just a creative decision. It was a statement, a flex, a way of showing Meghan that they could attract the same top-tier talent she thought she had locked down. And in the cutthroat world of celebrity branding, that kind of move doesn't go unnoticed. Meghan's eruption over this situation reveals something much deeper. It shows how tightly she grips her inner circle, how fiercely she guards her image, and how quickly she turns when she feels someone has stepped out of line. But that was just the beginning of this tangled, dramatic mess. There was a time when the Beckhams and the Sussexes seemed like the ultimate power friendship. Victoria and David were front and center at Harry and Meghan's royal wedding back in 2018, dressed to the nines and beaming for the cameras. They looked like they belonged there, like they were part of the inner circle. And for a while, it seemed like they were. The two couples moved in overlapping circles, shared mutual friends, and appeared to genuinely enjoy each other's company. It was the kind of high-profile friendship that tabloids love to obsess over. But fast forward a few years, and that warmth has completely evaporated. The closeness that once existed between the Sussexes and the Beckhams is gone, replaced by icy distance and barely concealed tension. What happened? According to insiders, the cracks started forming almost immediately after the wedding. Meghan, sources claim, began to feel threatened by Victoria's status in both the fashion world and British high society. While Meghan was still finding her footing as a royal, Victoria had already built an empire, commanded respect in the industry, and maintained friendships across elite circles that Meghan desperately wanted access to. Rumor has it that Meghan's competitive streak kicked in early. She reportedly bristled at the attention Victoria received, the way photographers clamored for shots of her at events, and how effortlessly she seemed to navigate the worlds Meghan was still trying to conquer. Friends of the Beckhams have whispered that Meghan's jealousy was palpable even back then, though she masked it well in public. Behind closed doors, however, insiders suggest she was constantly comparing herself to Victoria and coming up short in her own mind. The friendship began to crumble when reports surfaced that Harry had confronted David Beckham over alleged leaks to the press. Sources close to the Beckhams insist they were blindsided by the accusation, claiming they'd never betrayed the Sussexes' trust. But the damage was done. David, who'd been a loyal friend to Harry for years, was reportedly hurt and furious. Victoria, equally offended, decided she was done trying to maintain a relationship that clearly wasn't valued. The couple stopped speaking, stopped interacting publicly, and the once promising friendship died a quiet, bitter death. But even as the relationship disintegrated, the rivalry only intensified. Meghan couldn't let go of the comparisons. Victoria had everything Meghan wanted: a successful brand, Hollywood credibility, royal connections without the royal baggage, and a marriage that seemed rock solid. And now, with the Beckhams hiring Misan Harriman, it felt like Victoria was rubbing salt in an already festering wound. This wasn't just about moving on from a failed friendship. This was about Victoria proving she could outmaneuver Meghan in the very arena Meghan thought she controlled. The Beckham-Sussex friendship that once seemed unshakable has become a cautionary tale of jealousy, competition, and bruised egos, and things are only getting worse from here. Misan Harriman wasn't just any photographer to Meghan Markle. He was the photographer, the one she trusted to capture her most intimate, carefully staged moments, the one who understood her vision, her brand, and exactly how she wanted the world to see her. He'd been there for some of her most significant post-royal milestones, shooting images that felt personal yet polished, raw yet perfectly curated. To Meghan, Harriman was more than a creative collaborator. He was part of her team, her inner circle, someone she believed was unshakably loyal. Their relationship began around the time Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal duties and relocated to California. Harriman, a British-Nigerian photographer with a growing reputation for capturing powerful emotional imagery, quickly became Meghan's go-to. He shot the stunning black-and-white photo announcing her second pregnancy, an image that felt intimate and artistic, exactly the kind of statement Meghan wanted to make. It wasn't just a pregnancy announcement. It was a declaration that she was in control of her narrative, her image, and her story. Insiders claim Meghan valued Harriman because he understood the assignment without needing constant direction. He knew how to make her look regal yet relatable, powerful yet approachable. He captured her in ways that reinforced the brand she was building. Compassionate, modern, misunderstood, resilient. Every shot felt intentional, and that's exactly what Meghan needed. In her world where image is everything, having a photographer who got it was priceless. But beyond the professional relationship, sources suggest Meghan viewed Harriman as part of her loyal inner circle. She'd publicly praised him, shared his work on her platforms, and championed his talent to her network. In Meghan's mind, she'd helped elevate him, given him access to opportunities and visibility he might not have had otherwise. She believed he owed her something: loyalty, exclusivity, a refusal to work with people she considered rivals or enemies. That's why the Beckham situation cut so deep. Meghan didn't just see Harriman taking another client, she saw betrayal. She saw someone she'd trusted turning around and working with a woman she'd been quietly competing with for years. Sources close to Meghan claim she felt used, disrespected, and furious that Harriman hadn't consulted her first or at least given her a heads up. In her view, working with the Beckhams was crossing a line, choosing sides and making it clear where his true loyalties lay. The reality, of course, is that photographers work with multiple clients. It's how they build careers and maintain creative freedom. But Meghan doesn't operate that way. In her world, loyalty isn't negotiable. You're either with her or against her, and taking a job with the Beckhams firmly placed Harriman in the against column. The photographer she'd trusted, elevated, and considered hers had just proven he was willing to move on, and Meghan wasn't about to let that slide without consequences. Victoria and David Beckham didn't just hire Misan Harriman for his photography skills, they hired him to send a message, and that message was loud, clear, and aimed directly at Meghan Markle. In the high-stakes world of celebrity branding where every move is calculated and every collaboration is strategic, the Beckhams knew exactly what they were doing. They were showing Meghan that they could attract the same top-tier talent she thought she had exclusive access to. And they were doing it without asking permission or offering apologies. Sources close to the Beckhams suggest the decision to work with Harriman was as much about business as it was about optics. Victoria, who spent years building her fashion empire and cultivating relationships with influencers, creatives, and industry heavyweights, understands the power of a strong visual identity. Harriman's reputation for capturing authentic, emotionally resonant images made him a perfect fit for the Beckham brand. But insiders whisper there was another layer to the decision. Hiring him was a subtle flex, a way of demonstrating that the Beckhams still command influence and respect in circles Meghan desperately wants to dominate. And it worked. The moment the collaboration was announced, industry insiders took notice. Here were the Beckhams, effortlessly pulling in a photographer who'd become synonymous with Meghan's carefully curated image. It was a power move that signaled they weren't intimidated by the Sussexes, weren't worried about ruffling feathers, and certainly weren't going to let a fractured friendship dictate their business decisions. Victoria, known for her razor-sharp business instincts, knew this would create waves, and she didn't care. Word on the street suggests the Beckhams have grown tired of Meghan's attempts to control narratives and manipulate relationships within their shared social circles. Friends of the couple claim they view Meghan's possessiveness over collaborators and contacts as petty and exhausting. So when the opportunity to work with Harriman arose, they jumped on it without hesitation. It wasn't about stealing Meghan's photographer. It was about proving they operate on a different level. One where loyalty isn't demanded but earned, and where professional relationships aren't bound by unspoken territorial rules. The timing of the collaboration also raised eyebrows. It came at a moment when Meghan was already feeling vulnerable, her Hollywood ambitions stalling, and her public image taking hit after hit. The Beckhams hiring Harriman felt like salt in a wound, a reminder that while Meghan struggles to gain traction in the entertainment and fashion industries, Victoria has already conquered both. Insiders claim Meghan saw the move as deliberately antagonistic, a calculated effort to humiliate her and prove the Beckhams don't need her approval or friendship to thrive. But here's the thing. The Beckhams didn't need to make this move to prove their power. They already had it. Hiring Harriman was just a reminder to everyone watching, including Meghan, that they're operating at a level she's still fighting to reach. And that realization, it stung more than anything else. Meghan Markle has always been fiercely protective of her inner circle, but protective doesn't quite capture it. Sources who've worked with her or moved in her orbit describe something far more intense: a need for absolute control, unwavering loyalty, and complete devotion. In Meghan's world, you're either fully committed to her or you're out. There's no middle ground, no room for divided loyalties, and certainly no space for anyone who dares to work with people she considers enemies or rivals. This pattern didn't start with Misan Harriman. It's been there from the beginning. Friends, collaborators, and even family members have found themselves on the receiving end of Meghan's icy treatment when they've failed to meet her expectations or crossed invisible lines she never clearly defined. Insiders claim she operates with an unwritten rulebook that only she understands, and breaking those rules even unknowingly results in swift and brutal consequences. You're cut off, frozen out, and erased from her life as if you never existed. Take her relationship with Jessica Mulroney, once considered Meghan's closest friend and confidante. The two were inseparable for years, with Jessica playing a significant role in Meghan's wedding and supporting her through the early days of royal life. But when Jessica became embroiled in a public controversy, Meghan reportedly distanced herself immediately. Sources claim the friendship ended abruptly, with Meghan unwilling to stand by someone whose public image had become tainted. It wasn't about forgiveness or loyalty. It was about protecting her own brand, even if it meant abandoning a friend who'd been there for her when she needed it most. Then there's her estrangement from her entire family. Meghan hasn't spoken to her father in years, cut ties with her half-siblings, and reportedly instructed Harry to do the same. Insiders suggest she views family relationships through the same lens she views professional ones. If you're not useful, if you're not enhancing her image or supporting her narrative, you're expendable. The coldness with which she's severed those ties has left people who know her wondering if she's capable of genuine connection, or if every relationship is simply transactional. This need for control extends to the people who work for her as well. Staff members who've left the Sussex household have spoken anonymously about the impossible standards, the constant scrutiny, and the fear of making even minor mistakes. Rumors of bullying allegations surfaced during her time as a working royal, with reports claiming multiple staff members felt mistreated and undervalued. Meghan has denied these claims, but the pattern remains. Those who don't fall in line, who don't deliver perfection, or who dare to have lives and careers outside of serving her vision, find themselves pushed out or cut off entirely. So when Misan Harriman accepted work with the Beckhams, he wasn't just taking another photography job, he was breaking Meghan's unspoken code of loyalty, and in her eyes, that was unforgivable. The eruption that followed wasn't just about a photographer, it was about control slipping through her fingers. Hollywood insiders have been whispering about Meghan Markle's jealousy of Victoria Beckham for years. It's the kind of gossip that circulates quietly at industry events, shared over cocktails and in private conversations between people who've watched the dynamic unfold. And the consensus is always the same. Meghan can't stand that Victoria has everything she wants. The fashion empire, the Hollywood credibility, the social cachet, the effortless elegance. Victoria has built a life that Meghan is desperately trying to replicate, and the fact that she hasn't been able to match it eats away at her. Sources close to both women claim the tension became obvious early on. Meghan, fresh from her royal exit and eager to establish herself in the entertainment and fashion industries, expected doors to fly open. She believed her royal title and global recognition would translate into instant success, but the reality was far more complicated. Hollywood didn't embrace her the way she anticipated. Fashion houses weren't clamoring to collaborate, and the deals she did manage to secure, like the Netflix and Spotify partnerships, haven't delivered the cultural impact she craved. Meanwhile, Victoria Beckham has been thriving. Her fashion brand, once dismissed by critics, has become a respected force in the industry. She's dressed A-listers, shown at Fashion Week, and earned genuine respect from people who matter. She's navigated the transition from pop star to fashion mogul with grace and persistence, proving she's more than just a former Spice Girl or David Beckham's wife. And that success, it drives Meghan crazy. Insiders claim Meghan sees Victoria as someone who's achieved the level of influence and admiration she feels entitled to, but hasn't been able to secure. The competitive tension extends beyond professional jealousy. Sources suggest Meghan resents the fact that Victoria maintains friendships and connections within royal and elite circles, without the drama and backlash that follows Meghan everywhere. Victoria has managed to stay in the good graces of people Meghan has alienated. She's respected, admired, and welcomed in spaces where Meghan feels shut out, and that stings. It reinforces Meghan's belief that the world is unfair, that she's being judged more harshly, and that people are conspiring against her success. Industry insiders also point to Meghan's habit of comparing herself to other women in her orbit. Whether it's Kate Middleton, Victoria Beckham, or any other successful woman, Meghan seems incapable of celebrating their achievements without making it about her own perceived shortcomings. Friends of Victoria claim she's aware of Meghan's jealousy, but chooses not to engage. She's built her empire through hard work and resilience, and she's not interested in competing with someone who's more focused on tearing others down than building herself up. But the whispers in Hollywood are getting louder. People are noticing Meghan's pattern of resentment, her inability to handle anyone in her circle succeeding without her, and her tendency to burn bridges when she feels threatened. And now, with the Harriman situation exploding into public view, those whispers are becoming impossible to ignore. Prince Harry finds himself in an impossible position. On one side, there's his wife, furious and feeling betrayed over the Misan Harriman situation. On the other, there's his former friendship with David Beckham, a relationship that once meant something real before everything fell apart. And stuck in the middle, Harry is doing what he's done countless times before, trying to keep the peace, smooth things over, and make Meghan happy while quietly mourning yet another friendship lost to her demands and grievances. Sources close to the couple claim Harry initially tried to downplay the photographer drama. He reportedly told Meghan it wasn't worth getting upset over, that Harriman was a professional with every right to work with whoever he wanted. But that response didn't go over well. Insiders suggest Meghan viewed Harry's reluctance to share her outrage as a lack of support, another sign that he doesn't fully understand or validate her feelings. The tension between them flared, and Harry quickly realized that defending logic and reason wasn't going to win him any points at home. So he backed down. He always does. Friends who've known Harry for years say they barely recognize him anymore. The man who once had a wide circle of loyal friends, who valued camaraderie and genuine connection, has become increasingly isolated. One by one, those friendships have been sacrificed on the altar of Meghan's insecurities and demands. David Beckham was just another casualty in a long line of relationships that couldn't survive Meghan's need for absolute loyalty and control. The breakdown of Harry's friendship with David was particularly painful. The two men had been close for years, bonding over shared experiences and mutual respect. David had always been there for Harry, offering support and friendship without expecting anything in return. But when accusations of leaking stories to the press surfaced, Harry confronted David in a way that shocked and hurt him. David, according to sources, was blindsided and deeply offended. He insisted he'd never betrayed Harry's trust, but the damage was done. The friendship crumbled, and insiders claim David walked away feeling used and discarded. Now, with Meghan erupting over the Harriman situation, Harry is once again forced to choose between standing by his wife and maintaining any semblance of the life and friendships he once had. And as always, he's choosing Meghan. Sources close to Harry suggest he's tired, worn down by the constant drama and the endless cycle of outrage and isolation. But he's also trapped. He's built his entire post-royal identity around supporting Meghan, defending her, and standing by her no matter what. Walking back now would mean admitting he's made mistakes, and Harry doesn't seem capable of that kind of self-reflection. Friends of the Beckhams say they feel sorry for Harry. They see a man who's lost himself, who's become a shadow of who he used to be. But sympathy only goes so far. At the end of the day, Harry made his choices, and those choices have left him isolated, exhausted, and caught in a never-ending cycle of drama that shows no signs of stopping. The fallout from the Misan Harriman drama didn't stay private for long. Within days of the Beckhams announcing their collaboration with the photographer, eagle-eyed fans and royal watchers noticed something telling. Social media follows were disappearing. Accounts that had once been connected went silent. The digital breadcrumbs that hinted at friendship and mutual respect vanished overnight. And in the world of celebrity relationships, where social media interactions are scrutinized like ancient texts, these deletions spoke volumes. Insiders claim Meghan moved quickly to erase any remaining public ties to the Beckhams. Sources suggest she instructed those in her inner circle to do the same, creating a clear and unmistakable boundary. You're either with the Beckhams or with Meghan, and anyone caught straddling that line would face consequences. It was a power play, a way of forcing people to choose sides and reinforcing her control over her network. But it also revealed just how deeply the photographer situation had wounded her pride. The icy silence between the two camps became impossible to ignore. At industry events where their paths might have crossed, sources say elaborate measures were taken to ensure they wouldn't be in the same room at the same time. Mutual friends found themselves navigating an uncomfortable minefield, trying to maintain relationships with both parties while knowing that any perceived favoritism could result in being cut off entirely. The tension was palpable, and the whispers grew louder. What had started as a fractured friendship had escalated into something far more dramatic in public. Victoria Beckham, for her part, has remained conspicuously silent on the matter. She hasn't addressed the drama publicly, hasn't engaged with the speculation, and hasn't offered any olive branches. Friends of Victoria claim she's done trying to placate Meghan or tiptoe around her feelings. She's moved on, focused on her business and her family, and refuses to be dragged into Meghan's endless cycle of grievances. The silence isn't indifference. It's a power move of its own, a refusal to dignify the drama with a response. But the fallout extends beyond just the Beckhams and the Sussexes. Insiders suggest other celebrities and industry professionals are taking note, quietly reassessing their own relationships with Meghan. The pattern of burned bridges, severed friendships, and public fallouts has become impossible to ignore. People are asking themselves if maintaining a connection with Meghan is worth the risk of eventually finding themselves on her bad side, cut off and vilified for reasons they may not even understand. The deleted follows and frosty silence are symptoms of a much deeper problem. Meghan's need for control, her inability to tolerate perceived betrayals, and her scorched earth approach to relationships are creating an ever-shrinking circle. And as that circle gets smaller, the question becomes, who's left? Who's willing to risk their reputation, their friendships, and their peace of mind to stay in Meghan Markle's orbit? The answer, increasingly, seems to be fewer and fewer people. The Misan Harriman situation reveals something critical about Meghan Markle's approach to building her brand, and it's not pretty. Her explosive reaction to the photographer working with the Beckhams exposes a fundamental flaw in her strategy. She's trying to build an empire on control, loyalty demands, and territorial claims over people who are, at the end of the day, independent professionals with their own careers to manage. And that approach is backfire in spectacular fashion. Branding experts who followed Meghan's post-royal trajectory say her biggest mistake is treating collaborators like possessions rather than partners. Successful brands are built on mutual respect, flexibility, and the understanding that creative professionals need freedom to work with multiple clients. But Meghan operates from a place of scarcity and fear, convinced that if someone works with a perceived rival, it diminishes her own value. That mindset doesn't just limit her opportunities, it actively drives people away. The possessiveness she displays over her inner circle sends a chilling message to anyone considering working with her. Industry insiders claim potential collaborators are increasingly hesitant to align themselves with Meghan because they've seen what happens when she feels betrayed or slighted. The risk of being publicly frozen out, badmouthed behind closed doors, or caught in the crossfire of her feuds simply isn't worth it for many professionals who value their reputations and relationships across the industry. Sources suggest Meghan's competitive nature, while sometimes effective in pushing her forward, has become toxic when applied to her personal and professional relationships. She views every success by someone in her orbit as a potential threat rather than an opportunity for celebration or collaboration. When Victoria Beckham thrives, Meghan doesn't see inspiration. She sees competition. When Harriman takes another high-profile job, she doesn't see a talented photographer building his career. She sees betrayal. That lens distorts everything and makes genuine partnership impossible. The irony is that Meghan's need for control is creating the exact opposite of what she wants. Instead of building a loyal network of supporters and collaborators who choose to work with her because they believe in her vision, she's surrounding herself with people who stay out of fear or obligation. And those kinds of relationships are fragile. They crumble the moment someone gets a better offer or realizes the emotional cost of staying in Meghan's orbit isn't worth it. Brand strategists also point out that Meghan's public feuds and pattern of burned bridges are becoming a brand liability. Consumers and industry partners want to work with people who are collaborative, gracious, and professional. Meghan's reputation for being difficult, controlling, and quick to cut people off makes her a risky investment. The drama may generate headlines, but it doesn't generate the kind of respect and admiration that translates into long-term success. The Harriman situation is a microcosm of a much larger problem. Meghan is so focused on controlling every aspect of her image and network that she's choking the life out of her own brand, and if she doesn't change course, she'll find herself with an empire built on resentment, isolation, and a dwindling circle of people willing to stand by her. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the Misan Harriman drama is just one thread in a much larger pattern. Meghan Markle's reaction to the photographer working with the Beckhams isn't an isolated incident. It's a window into how she operates, how she views relationships, and what drives her. And what it reveals is troubling. This is a woman who craves power and attention above all else, who views loyalty as currency, and who burns bridges with alarming frequency when people don't meet her impossible standards. The pattern is undeniable. Family members cut off, friendships ended abruptly, staff members pushed out, collaborators frozen out when they dare to work with others. Every relationship seems to come with strings attached, invisible rules that only Meghan understands, and consequences that are swift and brutal when those rules are broken. She's built a world where she's always the victim, always the one who's been wronged, and always justified in whatever scorched earth response she chooses. But here's the uncomfortable truth that's becoming harder to ignore. Meghan's need for control and her inability to handle perceived slights are destroying the very thing she claims to want most: respect, admiration, and lasting success. You can't build an empire on resentment. You can't create meaningful connections when every relationship is transactional, and you can't demand loyalty while offering none in return. Eventually, people wise up. They see the pattern. They realize that no amount of access or opportunity is worth the emotional cost of being in Meghan's orbit. The jealousy that fuels so much of her behavior is equally destructive. Instead of learning from people like Victoria Beckham, who've successfully navigated the transition from celebrity to respected entrepreneur, Meghan views their success as a threat. She can't celebrate other women winning because she's too busy obsessing over why she isn't winning in the same way. That competitive mindset might work in some arenas, but in the world of relationships and reputation, it's poison. Industry insiders are quietly distancing themselves. The whispers have turned into open conversations about whether associating with Meghan is worth the risk. And the answer more and more often is no. The drama is too exhausting. The demands are too unreasonable. The likelihood of eventually being cut off or caught in the crossfire of one of her feuds is too high. People are choosing peace over proximity to someone who seems incapable of maintaining healthy, balanced relationships. So where does this leave Meghan? Standing at the center of an ever-shrinking circle, surrounded by fewer and fewer people willing to weather her storms. The power she craves is slipping through her fingers because she's wielded it so recklessly. The attention she demands is increasingly negative, and the bridges she's burned, they're piling up behind her, a trail of destruction that tells anyone paying attention exactly who she is and what they can expect if they get too close. The Harriman situation is just the latest chapter, but the story? It's been writing itself for years. So what do you think? Is Meghan's competitive nature her greatest strength or her ultimate downfall? Can she ever break free from this destructive pattern, or is this simply who she is? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive as jaw-dropping as we did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Glamour Report, and stay tuned. Trust us, the next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next. The royal drama never stops, and neither do we.